Mark, what is involved in becoming a quality reviewer? You alluded to us before that you've recently become a reviewer in the last 5 years. Could you tell us a bit about what attracted you to becoming a quality reviewer, and then what the process was like to become a quality reviewer?
Sure, thanks, Jo. I guess I've always looked at my practice and building the practice from bottom up, and I've had that opportunity rather than acquire a practice or move into a practice over time. So I had the opportunity to actually prepare the practice. So I had that interest already at that stage. Then I had my first quality assurance review, and my reviewer at the time had actually alluded and suggested that it's something that perhaps I should consider based on my review. And then I went through and considered what the requirements were, and of course being a public practice certificate holder, completing a review to an acceptable level. I think it was periods of time that required, of practice. Then the application process went through. There was interviews with appropriate people to, I suppose, gain in my mind, the correct approach and the correct attitude to becoming a quality reviewer. And then from there, the training, which was quite in depth, the training commenced. And from training also was a opportunity to go on a review with a experienced reviewer to see actually, I suppose, to put the theory and the training into practice, to also understand how members under review acknowledge and accept the process, because people do have varying degrees of understanding of the practice, especially for their first reviews. And from there, there's the constant and ongoing training, and that's most important. And I guess separate to training is also the maintenance of knowledge of current standards. They do change, and also important to that is as practices change, to, I suppose, utilise the standards as they are and ensure that quality control manuals, risk management frameworks are maintained, they're up to date, and that they're reflective of practice operations. They effectively become the guidelines. So the ongoing training is not just a formalised training program, it's also, I guess, what I do in my practice, and as part of the review process, what I discuss with members under review.
The CPA Australia Quality Review model is a peer review model. It has been a peer review model for its entirety since inception in 1994. Why do you think that's so important to have a peer review model as opposed to reviewers that are potentially employed by the organisation who are disconnected potentially with public practice, then going out and doing those particular reviews? What do you feel is so important about that peer review model?
I think members under review have an affiliation with people also within practice. We cover the same issues, we certainly come across the same concerns, and we also have positive wins, and we have threats and issues within the practice. By having the opportunity, not only as part of the review process, to have, it's very rare for somebody external to a practice, for another person to come in, review the practice, review the operations, and have a very open discussion with a principal or PPC holder of the practice to identify and discuss issues moving forward. I've always taken the view that the review process isn't just about ticking boxes, it's actually an education program, but it's also a great opportunity for members under review to be able to ask questions of any direction without any fear or favour, and it provides them the added comfort that at least somebody else is assisting them and trying to help them with their practice and the opportunities and issues that they address on a day-to-day basis.
Mark, it's a very interesting point that you raised about education being at the cornerstone of what we do within the Quality Review program. Our mantra within the Quality Review administration and management team is that compliance falls out of great education and training, that you wouldn't go and sit an exam ordinarily before you've studied the content. And so therefore, our members, if they've got areas of non-compliance, it's generally as a result of them not being able to keep abreast of every single change, which we also struggle with. So we completely empathise with our members' position there. Why do you think it's so important that it's an education focus rather than just a simple tick the box compliance focus? That's to both of you.
Yeah, well, It always has been an education focus. That's where we've always been. It's about making sure that the members understand the standards, know how to apply them in their practice. And I think because we are practitioners, we've had to implement these standards in our practice. And so we have that practical everyday usage of it, and can help them to do that. And often members struggle with how to actually put things in place. It's not that they don't know they're there. They know they exist, but they don't know how they can actually put them in their practice. So because we've actually had to do that, we can then help them do it. And so the education is very important. Ticking boxes doesn't achieve it necessarily a good end product or a good result in a practice. But having a process that you go through and making sure that that process is correct and that it fits with people, because you're dealing with people. And, you know, the practices want to be able to, they want to do the best they can for their clients. That none of them want to produce something that is below par. They want to meet the standards, they want to do the right thing, but they need to be able to do it in a practical way. And that's that's really what the QA is about.
So if you were coming up to a review, and all of our reviewers have to be whiter than white, they are reviewed every 3 to 4 years, right on their due date, right on the due time, because our reviewers obviously have to be compliant before they can go out and review other people. Would you be at all worried about a quality review that was about to happen in your practice, or would you look at it as an opportunity for someone with fresh eyes to come in, look at your practice and be able to have a peer-on-peer discussion about not just necessarily the standards, but the profession as a whole?
I've actually got my QA review coming up very shortly. I don't, as would be expected, I have never met my reviewer. It's an interesting process being a reviewer myself and being reviewed. We've already had a discussion in respect to the planning meeting. That was a very interesting discussion. To the extent that we both knew the process, and therefore it allowed us to discuss other issues. From my point of view, I welcome another pair of eyes looking over what I do in my practice, notwithstanding that I'm a QA reviewer. I guess that there are always things you can learn from other people, and I think that's always been my approach. Have open eyes, open ears, and listen to ideas and thoughts, as well as to ensure that what I am doing, from my point of view, is consistent. One of the things that every practitioner probably understands is that when you're looking and doing things every day, you don't always necessarily take a step back and consider, is this in line with what my quality control manual states? Is this in line with what my risk management framework states? Have they been updated regularly? Are they reflective of my practice operations? So I welcome the opportunity. And is there any concern or nerves? There's no concern, because even if there was something that wasn't or was considered to be altered or improved, I welcome that opportunity. But I think also from my point of view, I'm very confident that my practice runs the way I would like to see it run, and from a compliance point of view, from a professional compliance point of view, I'm very happy with that. But that's not to say that there aren't improvements. And interestingly enough, when I'm actually on review for members, even the highly compliant practices still have just as many questions as practices perhaps that haven't paid as much attention to some of the professional standards.
That's one of the greatest advantages of the quality review program that we talk to members under review about, is that you have a reviewer coming in who has seen, in particularly in Margot's cases, hundreds of practices over their years with the quality review program. And Mark, even in your case, in the tens of practices, whereas when you're in practice yourself, you are immersed in your own practice and therefore perhaps don't get the opportunity to see how other practices run. That's a huge advantage, being able to have someone come into your practice who not only runs their own practice, but also sees the operations of hundreds of other practices all around Australia, because we review members from every state in Australia and from every region within Australia. Wherever a member holds a public practice certificate, we go and we do those reviews. Have any of, or either of you, gone to another state or travelled for your quality reviews? How does that work?
I've done numerous interstate reviews, principally Western Australia and South Australia. And effectively, the process is very similar. The firms or the members under review, more than happy to accommodate the fact that someone is coming in from interstate. Travel times can sometimes be a little taxing by the end of the day, but foremost it's just another location. And I think from a member's point of view, it's actually, especially for some of the smaller areas around Australia, it provides them the comfort that there's not somebody within their regional area overlooking their practice. So they do tend to be quite open and relaxed when they know that somebody's coming from interstate.
So we've taken the approach where we look at a member's competitive or geographical location, and from a competitive position, we wouldn't want to send anyone into a practice that potentially might be a competitor of that particular member. But not only that, from that perspective, is that all of our reviewers are under very strict confidentiality arrangements, aren't they, where our members can rest assured that in the 22 years of the quality review being operational within CPA Australia, we have not had one instance of a member's confidentiality being breached or there being any deleterious effects on a member's clientele because of a quality review. Is that the case?
Oh, absolutely. On review, we're not entitled under the stipulations of the quality review program. Everything's by review code. There's no names, there's no recognition of the member of the firm or by client name. Each client is represented by just a number, 1, 2, 3, up to however many clients are being reviewed. Members only referred to by their review code. So the member will receive benefit out of the review, but certainly from an external point of view and security point of view, even though the information that gets conveyed from myself to the quality review team within CPA Australia, if anyone were to look at that other than the review code, they wouldn't have any understanding of the member or even of the clients that were reviewed.
Yeah, clients are never mentioned, names are not put anywhere. I always say to members, I'm looking at a client file, but I'm looking at the processes in the file, not the actual numbers. I don't care whether the client turns over millions of dollars or they turn over hundreds. It doesn't matter. That is not the issues that we are looking at. We are looking at the processes and the way that you actually put together those files and how you prepare the work for your clients.
And CPA Australia makes that abundantly clear to all of our reviewers.
Definitely.
That these
Absolutely.
very strict confidentiality requirements are imposed and are enforced, and are contracted for as well.
Correct.
Yep.
That's actually what I've mentioned to members too as part of the process, that it is incumbent on us as reviewers and under contract with CPA Australia to ensure that everything is maintained at the highest level of confidentiality.
Well, Margot, it looks like it's quite a rigorous process in terms of the recruitment of reviewers. Why do you think that the management of CPA Australia have instituted such a rigorous process in terms of ensuring that the people that are doing these reviews are at the forefront of their profession?
Certainly from a member point of view, if they're allowing somebody to come into their practice, they expect that that person would have the level of expertise and professionalism to undertake a review. The level of expertise and technical content is almost these days, I think, a given. It's just expected. And that's important as part of conveying elements of the review to the member, that they actually understand why. If there's something that could be improved upon, they can actually understand why we're mentioning that and discussing that, and more importantly, providing solutions and how they could actually potentially address it in line with their practice operations. I think the other thing that's important is that as we are effectively privileged to walk into another business, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's somebody else's business that they're opening up to us. There has to be an accepted level of professionalism and understanding of what we're being allowed to review, and so therefore we take that extremely seriously.
When we're looking at recruiting new reviewers, technical expertise goes without saying. We obviously need our reviewers to be at the forefront of the profession from a technical knowledge standpoint. But the thing that we find most important when we're looking to recruit our reviewers is around their personal skills, is around how they interact with other people, how they can convey messages, how they will go about conducting a review, because it's critically important for us that our members feel comfortable, that they feel that they can approach our reviewer for assistance if they feel that it's necessary, and that they don't feel in a position of being intimidated or overwhelmed by the information that's being given to them. So what are some of the things that you do to help our members feel comfortable when you're about to go in and review a practice?
I probably try to build a lot of rapport early on through the planning meeting, which usually is conducted via phone, but I always try to touch base prior to actually locking in a date for a planning meeting. Sometimes it can be done via email, but generally I try to build that rapport very quickly. More importantly for the member also to, I suppose, be able to feel comfortable with the process. Make sure that there's no questions at that stage, but step them through the process a little bit. A lot of members take the opportunity to listen to the webinar that's produced by CPA Australia or attend a seminar in relation to the QA review process. That certainly assists as part of explaining the process. But I think the most important element is to sit there and is to actually listen to what the members' expectations are and what their understanding of the process is, and to ensure that that is effectively on point with what the program is all about. It then means by the time, I guess from a review point of view, by the time I walk into their practice, it's almost like we know each other very well and that we've actually had a number of chats. So certainly from that point of view, I've never had a combatant type approach or issue from any member, and most of them have actually enjoyed the process. And I think, again, that approach of providing insight into opportunities within their own practice and practice structure allows them to see it as a positive outcome and a positive approach, not, as I said before, the tick and bash approach. Yeah.
Margot, we can't get away from it being there being a compliance element to our program.
Oh, there has to be.
We can't get away from that, but we really try to ensure that our members gain some value through the quality review program. Where a member has a world recognised or a world-class practice and they're fully compliant, obviously there's going to be different levels of value that a member can gain through the quality review process. But how do you add value when you go out and do a review? What are some of the things or the questions you might ask to try and add value to a member throughout the quality review process?
Try and look at what procedures are in place in the practice and just how they're putting, how they work through things. All practices feel that they are unique in their own space, and they are. I haven't been in two practices that are the same. So it's more about going through and talking to them about what do they want to achieve, where is the practice going. For some practices, they're looking at becoming paperless. Okay, well I've been in some practices that are now paperless. This is how they have achieved it, and we talk about the systems that could be put in place to help them go through that process. So it's more about how are you coping now, and if they're doing really well and their practice is going well, where do you want to be? How are you looking at achieving that? And then talk them through that process and maybe give them some suggestions of how that process could be best managed. And sort of, I suppose because we have been in a number of practices, you've seen lots of ways that practitioners handle different situations, and they may have a particular problem in their practice that has maybe even only crept up in the last little while, and you step them through it and help them with that. And I often find that, you know, I do give them my number if they want to help, if they want a hand later, they do. And there's a couple of practitioners who that I still mentor to some extent, because they will ring me on certain issues. They're newly in practice, I did their first reviews, and they just want some assistance as they're going forward. And I find that practitioners really, it's about interrelationships, it's about getting that networking happening, and I encourage all practitioners to network as much as possible, to join discussion groups, to meet with other practitioners, but also not just within your profession, but other people outside of your profession that actually assist your clients. So I think that's really important as well, and that networking is really one of the things that I do discuss with members, and how they can network within their profession and also with other professions as well. So.
CPA Australia produces a whole suite of tools and resources that are available particularly to our public practitioners to assist them with where they are in the now, but also that piece about where they are going to be or where they want to be in future. Is that something that you talk to members about at reviews, what resources are available to them and how they might go about finding those or utilising those resources?
Yeah, a lot of members have probably looked at the website more on an ad hoc basis or as needs be. As they go through the review process, you tend to find that they are using that more as a tool, or not on necessarily an everyday basis, but certainly a lot more regularly than perhaps in the past. And I guess they probably then fully appreciate the resources that are there, whether they be checklists, whether they be part and parcel of the quality control manual as a template and framework. But it's also, there's a lot of other tools and information there that will assist them. There's the information technology, I think it's the business disruption plan or something along those lines.
And succession planning.
Yeah, and a lot of those type of issues, perhaps they're considered only every now and again by a practitioner, but at least that they know that the resources are there when they need them, or if they need to look at those type of issues within their practice.
Because quite often the difficulty is not knowing what you don't know, and then once you do know, knowing where to find that information to help you move to the next, take it to the next step within your practice.